إلا الله إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستهديه ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن سيدنا ونبينا وعظيمنا وحبيبنا محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم أوصي وأوصيكم بتقوى الله قال تعالى أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الذي فرض عليك القرآن لرادك إلى معاد وقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم المهاجر من هجر إلى الله من المعاصي أو كما قال صلى الله عليه وسلم أما بعد. Today, Yawm al-Jum'ah, this Friday, is the 7th day of the month of Rabi' al-Awwal. Typically, as a Muslim community, we think when we think of Rabi' al-Awwal, what comes to mind the quickest is that this is the month that the Prophet ﷺ was brought into this world, on the 12th of the month of Rabi' al-Awwal. But what I'd like to highlight today is something that doesn't get as much discussion in the masajid and the communities, and that is the hijrah, the migration from Mecca to Medina. Not only is Rabi' al-Awwal the month of the birth of the Prophet ﷺ, but it is also the month of the migration, the hijrah of the Prophet ﷺ. As a matter of fact, the hijrah of the Prophet ﷺ began on the 1st of Rabi' al-Awwal, which in that time was on a Monday, which corresponded in that time to September 12th. And the migration of the Prophet ﷺ from Mecca to Medina took 8 days. 8 days. We don't have a lot of time, but I would like to share with you some of those events that happened during the migration of the Prophet ﷺ. Because migration is a core element of human history. It's part of who we are. We are a creature that constantly migrates. Our human evolutionary history, and when I say evolutionary, I don't mean in the Darwinian terms. I mean just in terms of history, how we've changed. We began as nomads, people that roam, and then it's only been in recent human history that we've settled down. The rise of the city and the urban areas is a recent human phenomenon. Migration has always been a part of who we are. But what made the Prophet's migration ﷺ unique from other forms of migration in human history is that his migration ﷺ was about religious freedom and was about establishing equality in the realm of ubudiyah. Equality in the sense that every human being, male and female, are equal in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so, as we are in this time of Rabi' al-Awwal, important for us to shed some light and to remember a few events of the Prophet's migration, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his physical migration from Mecca to Medina, which was actually inspired and came after the spiritual migration from Mecca to Jerusalem to the heights of heaven known as the Isra and the Mi'raj. It was that spiritual migration which took place in his body, the bodily form of that spiritual migration which paved the way and prepared the ground for the physical migration. And so on Monday, the Prophet ﷺ packs his things and he leaves his home. His home where Khadija radiallahu ta'ala, his beloved wife, used to live. He packs his things and he leaves. He walks through one of the major marketplaces. Just walks right through the souk. Today that marketplace is no longer there. In history, the haram has expanded, and in today's time, now there's a big door over where that marketplace where Rasulullah ﷺ used to walk, that big door. Nowadays, those of you that have been to Hajj and Umrah, you know it. It's called Bab Malik Abdul Aziz, the door of King Abdul Aziz. Well, that door is where the Prophet ﷺ walked through that area. He went to Abu Bakr as-Siddiq's house, which unfortunately today is the site of the Mecca Towers. So he went to his house, radiyallahu ta'ala, and they left. They went to the cave of Thawr. Actually, this was a Friday that he left, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He left on a Friday, a Jum'ah. They went to the cave Thawr, and they stayed there, as we know, for 3 nights. Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night they stayed. Monday morning, they descended the mountain on Monday morning. And at the base of the mountain was their guide that they had prearranged, that he would meet them there. They descended the mountain on that Monday, and that Monday was Rabi al-Awwal, the 1st. That we know. It was the 1st of Rabi al-Awwal. And they left. And that first day of the migration, they passed mountains, valleys. They went through a plain that was called Hudaybiyah. That would later become very famous in the seerah. The Prophet ﷺ walked through Hudaybiyah. And he reaches an area that's full of the remnants of where lava used to be, these lava stones. He reaches that area, and that becomes an area later on in the history where a surah, part of Surah Al-Fath is revealed. And he continues, and they camp out in that area. Day 2 emerges. Day 2, they continue on and they reach a little town called Usfan. And they take a break there, and then they continue into a big area where there's some small tents. And in this tent, this area is run by an old woman whose name is Ma'bad. And Ma'bad is very famous because she would always treat the nomads to a drink of water or milk as they're traveling by. She and her husband Abu Ma'bad. And Rasulullah ﷺ goes to this area with him and Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala and their guide. And on this particular occasion, the Abu Ma'bad, the husband, is not there. And Ma'bad, her goat, which normally she milks and provides milk to the visitors, the goat is emaciated and can't produce. And this causes some pain to Ma'bad, because when she first sees Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, she doesn't know who he is, but she knows he's somebody special. she sees him from a distance and she's in a state of awe. And she recites some poetry about the beauty and the majesty of Rasulullah ﷺ in his descriptions. He was a very handsome man. He wasn't too tall, wasn't too short. Some of his physical features, etc. And she embraces those guests, and the Prophet ﷺ puts his blessed hand on the belly on the udder of the goat and pronounces the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the udder fills and milk pours forth and they drink. They leave the company of Ma'bad, and later on her husband returns. And she tells her husband Abu Ma'bad about this encounter with this amazing bashar, this amazing human being. And he's shocked, and he knows that that's most likely Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he packs his things and he goes to find him sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We'll come back to him. And then he sallallahu alaihi wasallam continues, and he reaches an area called Juhfa. And at this area, he's already exited Mecca, and now he's traveling, right at Juhfa. But at Juhfa, he has a moment, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He now knows for sure there's no turning back. He's leaving. And he feels sadness in his qalb, in his heart, that he's leaving his home. He can, most likely at that time, he was thinking he'd never visit the grave of his wife again, radiyallahu ta'ala anha, the grave of his grandfather, Abu Talib's grave, all of these people that supported him and protected him and his home and all these things he's leaving behind. He's muhajir now. And at Juhfa, some of the ulama, they say there were two feelings that he had, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. One was remorse and sadness for what he was leaving behind in terms of leaving his home and the legacy. And the other emotion he had, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, was fear. We'll come to the fear in a second. But the important thing is, at that moment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reveals a portion of an ayah in Surah Al-Qasas. The entire Surah Al-Qasas, by the way, is a Meccan surah except for that verse. It's verse 85, the verse we recited earlier. Allah Ta'ala knew his feelings. And so he revealed Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, إِنَّ الَّذِي فَرَضَ عَلَيْكَ الْقُرْآنِ. Indeed, know that the one who has bound this Qur'an to you, the one who has obligated you to follow this Qur'an, which now you're leaving your home as a result of you preaching the Qur'an, you've been kicked out of your home, you've been persecuted, you've lost your wife and lost your ashab on account of what you've sacrificed and given up on account of the tabligh of the Qur'an. And this was fard for you. It wasn't a voluntary mission. You had to do it, and now you find yourself kicked out of your home. The one that farada alayka al-Qur'an, laradduka ila ma'ad. Listen, the one that obligated the Qur'an to you and bound you to the Qur'an and its message and its propagation is the same one that will return you back home. Don't worry. Don't worry. This was a bashara for the Prophet ﷺ. Don't worry. You'll be back. Don't worry. You'll go back home. Every migrant, no matter what their life is like, how beautiful it is in the country they've immigrated to, at the end of the day, there's no place like home. That Rabb that tied you to that message, لَرَادُّكَ إِلَى مَعَادٍ, He's going to return you back home. Look at the shafqa, the rahmah of Allah Ta'ala. Some of the ulama have a little subtle message here, that the Prophet ﷺ was also fearful, that he knew from the pattern of the Anbiya before him, that the moment a Nabi was separated from his city, or the moment that a Nabi was separated from the people, at that moment it signified that the azab of Allah Ta'ala was coming. The punishment of Allah Ta'ala was coming. And so he was fearful while leaving his home that his command to make hijrah was also an announcement, or it might be an announcement of the punishment of Allah Ta'ala to come to the people of Mecca. And he was afraid of that. And he didn't want that to happen. And at Juhfa, that emotion settled in, and that's when that ayah was there, that the one who has bound you to the Quran, لَرَادُّكَ إِلَى مَعَادٍ, he will return you back home, and he's not going to return you to a home of ruins. He'll send you back to complete the message. Your people will accept the message, and that place will be more hospitable now for you, later for you. But now it's not. Take a break. Leave. Let some time happen, then you'll go back home. That was Juhfa. And that place of Juhfa now is a site, is what's called the Miqat, a place for pilgrims from Syria, from Egypt, and from the Maghrib, from the west, to go and take a break before and enter into the state of Ihram before they go into the Kaaba. Look at that. The sites from the Hijrah, many of them, not all of them, but many of them are sites where pilgrims coming into Mecca prepare themselves to enter Mecca. So day 3 occurs. The Prophet and Abu Bakr and Abu Bakr are continuing traveling, mountains, valleys, and plains. And day 4, they arrive at a place called Al-Qaha. And Al-Qaha has different paths and different roads and things of that nature, but there's one road that is special in Al-Qaha. And Al-Qaha has this one road where the only people that go down that road, when they're going into Mecca, that road is only taken by the Anbiya and the Salihin, the righteous. And the Prophet ﷺ exiting Mecca takes that road out. And that way he becomes the guide out. There is a guide to Medina, but he says, no, we'll take this road here. That's the path. And he walks out of Mecca on the path of the Anbiya into Mecca. Subhanallah. In Al-Qaha. It's still today called Al-Qaha. Fifth day. In the 5th day, they reach a little town called Al-Araj. And Al-Araj, they take a break, they walk through that town. It's a very long plain area full of mountains and valleys. And Al-Araj later becomes very special in the seerah, because later on in the last year, when the Prophet ﷺ is coming from Medina back into Mecca to conquer Mecca, with an army of over 10,000 strong, when that army comes back through Mecca, they go through that same place, Al-Araj. And it's very famous, that same place is famous because the Prophet ﷺ, when he's coming back into Mecca, goes through Al-Araj, he sees a mother dog who's nursing her pups. And he commands one of his Sahabas to stand guard, so that no one in the army disturbs that mother and disturbs those puppies nursing. And Al-Araj becomes the place in the Islamic history where a soldier guards a mother dog and her pups, while the army of 10,000 is marching through, so that those animals don't feel any stress or any anxiety. Rahmah of the Prophet ﷺ in Al-Araj, because Al-Araj gave him shelter as he's going as well. So everything in that place deserved sanctity and protection. He was in Al-Araj on a Friday, Jum'ah. That was the 5th day. Rabi al-Awwal, the 5th. Today is the 7th. Saturday, he and his Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, his companion, left Araj and they went into this beautiful area which had this unbelievably strange and exotic mountain called Jabal al-Warqan. If you see this mountain, it's the most extraterrestrial mountain you'll ever look at. It is like red, and I mean red. It's like red and pink and orange. And it stands out. And the Prophet ﷺ points to that mountain and tells Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala and the guide and those with him, he said, هَذَا جَبَلٌ مِّن جَنَّةٍ. That's a mountain from Jannah. It's called Jabal Warqan. Still there today. And as they're traveling on day 6, that Jabal, that red, pink, exotic mountain overlooks them. They never leave its sight until close to the evening when they enter into a valley. And that valley is called Wadi Reem, the valley of Reem. The Reem Valley. And they camp out in Reem Valley. And behold, guess who they run across there by the qadr of Allah? Guess who meets them in Reem Valley? Who catches up, who's been following? Abu Ma'bad, the husband of that woman that they met on day 2, Ma'bad with the goat. And in Valley Reem, he catches up to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he meets Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam on that Saturday, day 6, and he embraces Islam at the hands of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and goes back to the place of Ma'bad, and that area embraces Islam as well. Day 7, they enter into an area by water called Aqiq. And the Prophet ﷺ made dua for that water. And today that area in Aqiq is a place for the miqat for the people of Medina coming into Mecca. And its water is seasonal, so it's there in the spring, but not necessarily throughout the summer. And it's Mubarak, blessed water to drink from. The Prophet ﷺ drank from that water. And he entered into a place called Al-Jahjafa as well, which had a blessed well in it. And many of the tribes, some of the tribes of the Ansar were camped there, and they embraced the Prophet ﷺ there. That was on a Sunday, the 7th of Rabi al-Awwal. And then Monday, the 8th of Rabi al-Awwal, Monday, the Prophet ﷺ enters a place called Quba. There he's met by a man whose name is Amr ibn Auf radiallahu ta'ala. And he stays in the home of that companion Amr ibn Auf in Quba. It's a Monday, the 8th of Rabi al-Awwal. And he stays with Amr ibn Auf for 4 days. He reaches there Monday. It's in Quba. He stays there Tuesday, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Wednesday, he stays there, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then Thursday, he stays there, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he stays there from Monday to Thursday. He stays there from the 8th of Rabi al-Awwal to the 11th. And in Quba, he built, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the first masjid ever. He built it, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, at that time. Foundation, the Qibla, the Mihrab. He's not there just relaxing. He's building. On Thursday, which is the 11th of Rabi al-Awwal, he sleeps, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Friday morning, the 12th, on his birthday, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The 12th of Rabi al-Awwal, Jum'ah, Friday morning. He arises, he leaves, he prays Fajr someplace, and that place where he plays Fajr, now there's a masjid there. in Quba. And he leaves, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, him and Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala, later on they go to a man's house, and in that house they pray Salatul Jum'ah in Quba. And today, that place where they prayed is now a masjid. It's called Masjid Jum'ah. It's called Masjid Jum'ah in Quba. After Salatul Jum'ah, he leaves, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, on foot, not on camel, on foot, with his ride. And he walks 2 miles, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, into Medina. And where his camel stops in Medina, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, it's on the 12th of Rabi'ul Awwal on a Jum'ah. The symbols here are just unbelievable. Where his camel stops, as you all know, is the house of the great Sahabi Abu Ayyub al-Ansari. Today, the place where the camel stopped, that house of Abu Ayyub al-Ansari today, is the minbar in Masjid al-Nabawi. It's the minbar of the Prophet. When you go in Masjid al-Nabawi, you see the minbar, that's where the camel stopped. That's where the house of Abu Ayyub al-Ansari was. And the Masjid al-Nabawi was built after that. Prophet's house was built. He stayed with Abu Ayyub al-Ansari 6 months. Now where is Abu Ayyub al-Ansari? Istanbul in Europe. Buried in Europe. At migration, look at that. The migration, the Prophet ﷺ was housed by Abu Ayyub al-Ansari, and look where Abu Ayyub al-Ansari migrates to, Europe. Istanbul. You want to go visit him today, you don't go to Medina. You go to Istanbul, you go to Europe. He's on the European side of Istanbul, not the Asian side. His qabr is on the European side. Look at the migration of Islam. And now Islam is here. When you go to Umrah, and you go from Mecca to Medina, don't just take bus rides. People take bus rides and car rides and go from Mecca to Medina. You have to stop, think, ponder, reflect. This was not just a path from Mecca to Medina. These are very special Mubarak events. Each day on that 8-day journey was very sacred, very special, transformative. Mountains that were testifying, and valleys and waters and wells and tribes with tents and goats and everything on the way testified to La ilaha illallah Muhammadan Rasulullah, and testified to the meaning of that physical migration. And they looked forward to that promise of Allah Ta'ala, لَرَادُكَ إِلَى مَعَادٍ, we will return you back home. Back home not only to Mecca, but back home to Jannah ultimately as well. We have to reclaim that migratory spirit, brothers and sisters. We act like we are sedentary here, like we are here just to stay. We are migrants. Every day should be a new day for us. Every day we should work harder, strive harder. We should establish, we should build, we should thrive, we should move forward in our ruh, move forward in our aql, move forward in our qalb, move forward in our dedication to Allah, move forward in our dedication to establishing this deen, and continue to move and move and move and build and build and build, and not become shackled down by what we lost, what is in our past, as if we will never return to the people that we lost, or the money we've given away and it's lost, as if that will never return, or the youth that we had, the fame that we had, or the this or the that we had. The Quran is fard on us too. But by following the Quran, we earn that ma'ad. We earn our destiny in being returned home. Where are migrants to? And the moment we become sedentary people is the moment we actually start to move backwards. We have become sedentary in following the spirit and, in many cases, the form of our tradition. But we become migrants in following the modern way of doing things. We have to check that paradigm. And so let us, this month of Rabi'ul Awwal, in this time of migrants, this hijrah time that we are remembering, let us be invigorated and moved by the Prophet ﷺ's hadith, and we'll close with this, that the muhajir, the migrant, man hajara ila Allah ta'ala min al-ma'asi, is the one that journeys to Allah ta'ala, who migrates and goes to Allah ta'ala from all kinds of forms of sins, all types of ma'asi, internal, psychological, spiritual, actual ma'asi with the eyes and the nose and the ears and the tongue and the hands and the genitals and the stomach and the feet and the nafs, all of it. We must migrate psychologically, consciously, and that internal migration will lead to external movement. And if we wonder why we've not moved externally, it's because internally we have become sedentary. We are satisfied with who we are consciously in our nafs. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inspire us with the stories. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the ma'na, help us to ponder on these Mubarak 8 to 12 days of the hijrah of the Prophet ﷺ. May we be inspired by it, may our children be inspired by it, and may this inspiration allow us to reclaim the meaning of the birth of the Prophet ﷺ, and through his birth may our nafs be relegated, and may it die, and may it be reformed again, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has the qudra and the power to produce life from death and to produce death from life. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين من كل ذنب فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أوصي وأوصيكم بتقوى الله. قال تعالى: إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد كما صليت على سيدنا إبراهيم وعلى آل سيدنا إبراهيم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد كما باركت على سيدنا إبراهيم وعلى آل سيدنا إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. رب اغفر للمسلمين والمسلمات والمؤمنين والمؤمنات الأحياء منهم والأموات برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين واجعلنا للمتقين إماما. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. عباد الله اتقوا الله إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. أقيموا الصلاة.
الله أكبر الله